Good morning, good afternoon, and good evening. Thank you for joining in to our monthly webinar. This week we have a few updates to share, and we're going to talk about marketing and some of the items that we see on the Amazon frontier. Today on the line, we've got David Ruff, who's a senior account manager at Navazon, and then Alan Adams, our president and founder. So I'll pass it over to Alan, and he'll get us started. Alan?
Thank you, Patrick. As people could see, we've got a lot of information, a lot of text changes at Amazon as it's constantly changing. With Patrick's introduction too of good morning, good afternoon, and good evening, we have people joining us all around the world in different time zones. It's very appropriate as Amazon is making incredible changes around the world, whether it's India, Australia, or here in the US and in Canada. Those changes continue to happen every single day, and we want to bring you in these presentations the tips and tricks to make the best use of Amazon, regardless of which marketplace you're in. We will be covering Amazon updates, particularly ones that are in Amazon's COVID response, some operations and marketing items, the Amazon frontier and new tools and programs, as well as a question and answer period. If you do have questions, please feel free to type them into the chat box or wait till the end of the presentation and ask them then. In terms of Amazon updates and the COVID response, there's a lot going on. In terms of this slide shows the state shutdowns in that starting March 23rd through April 7th. By April 7th, we had pretty much the entire state, or the all states shut down in terms of economies and in terms of a stay-at-home rule. And as states have reopened their economies, every one of us is experiencing something different. While we're all experiencing something a little bit different, we are seeing that everyone's in some phase of reopening. So where we saw in the March and April timeframe, everything was shut down, everything has begun to reopen. In some cases, it has some pausing or some reversal, but you'll see the dark gray and lighter gray is reopened and reopening. And it also aligns with employment, and that we're seeing the new unemployment claims and overall unemployment coming down somewhat. So the economy is returning to not a normal level by any means right now, but is recovering somewhat. And this is having a significant impact on Amazon and its continuing strength. So as the pandemic continues, it forces people to stay at home and shop online. And so much so that Amazon is adding an additional 33,000 corporate employees and an additional 100,000 employees in the US and Canada. And this 100,000 employees is really significant because Amazon in prior presentations, if you joined us, Amazon's already added over 175,000 employees earlier this year in response to increased demand. This is an additional 100,000 employees just in the US and Canada that they anticipate many of them will be full-time. And this is on top of what Amazon is looking to hire for Q4, which is usually more transitional roles for the high spike period or demand in Q4. There are particular areas like online grocery, which is surging. 60% of survey respondents saying they've purchased digitally, up from 46% pre-COVID. So this is showing, I think, a permanent, in many cases, a permanent shift to buying online, or why permanent? Because people are becoming more comfortable with knowing that that opportunity exists and the convenience of it being delivered within a day or two. 40% of online sales are also on smartphones, with 190 billion spent just this year. And this is really benefiting Amazon because Amazon is one of the few places that has a really nice mobile or smartphone interface, regardless if that's on an Apple phone or another smartphone. Amazon is very well positioned in that market. And within another space where Amazon is growing is within the next 12 months, Amazon will have added over 21 jets or new aircraft for hauling cargo to ensure timely delivery of ordered products. Why do I mention this? Because Amazon has spiked in terms of demand that it's seen, but it's also realizing that it is in competition with Walmart and other retailers to ensure that it's delivering in a timely manner, even during high surge periods. And it's building out the infrastructure to do it by itself. So with over 21 jets, that's a very large investment that they're making during this period. And in addition to that, Amazon's opening 100 new warehouses, delivery stations, and other facilities just this month in September of 2020. This shows you that the rapid expansion of Amazon and the infrastructure that it's building to respond to what it sees as not just a transitional demand, but a continuing demand. Quietly, Amazon's also been expanding its use of smart cart and cashierless technologies in stores. Specifically in September 2020, they opened a supermarket. And it's really interesting. I'd love to go down to this store. I believe it's down in the Los Angeles area. Is that similar to an Amazon Go store, which is cashierless? At Amazon Go, you walk in, put things in your bag, and walk out. If you scan in with your Amazon app, and it charges you without having to do any official checkout. With the smart cart, you do something similar where you put the items in your cart and you just walk out with them, and it's already charged you. Particularly in a period like COVID, this opportunity to avoid a person and additional touches is a really significant item that in the pandemic environment makes a lot of sense, but it also makes a lot of sense in the long run because it's much faster and requires less infrastructure to support. It's a much better customer experience. Another thing that's of interest to first-party sellers, many of our clients are first-party sellers on Amazon, and sometimes it feels like there's a difficulty or challenges in the one-piece space. And so third-party selling sometimes seems as though it's more attractive or much simpler. And in fact, third-party changes recently are making third-party sales more difficult. So it's a good spot to be. 1P, it feels a much better spot to be right now. Starting September 1, Amazon may require third-party sellers in the US to display their business name and addresses on their public-facing profiles. This is something that they already do in many international markets, so the US is just catching up here. Why this is beneficial, in many cases, this policy is going to help not only consumers, but also brands, because we want to track down those third-party sellers who are suspected of selling counterfeit or unsafe goods, as well as individuals who are popping up out of the gray market selling items that are unauthorized or somehow otherwise accessing products. This has not shown up in terms of a feature on Amazon that we have seen yet, but it was reported that it's supposed to be happening, so I suspect that we may see it in the coming weeks. Amazon's probably figuring out how to implement this. There are probably a couple of things that they want to work through yet. Another change in the third-party space is that in February of 2021, Amazon will require third-party sellers to deliver products eligible for Prime in 1 or 2 days. Amazon's also going to require the program to be offered across the United States rather than just nearby areas. Why this is really significant is that Amazon has extended its Prime eligible options to third-party sellers. And a lot of consumers have been frustrated. This is going to force the third-party seller to ship on weekends because they're not going to be able to get an order on Friday and send it on Monday because it would already be late in terms of the 1 or 2 day promise that's related to Prime. While this is a really good customer benefit, if you've ever purchased a third-party product and had it show up 7 or 10 days or even longer, or sometimes in some cases I've had a product never show up from a third party, it's very frustrating. So this is Amazon, I think, tightening the rules a bit on third-party sellers, particularly merchant fulfilled network sellers. And the last bullet here really calls out, I was amazed by this bullet, is that fewer than 16% of the orders from third-party vendors in the United States who purport to offer Prime actually met the 2-day delivery promise, even prior to the pandemic. So it suggests why Amazon sees this as so important. And I just experienced that just this last week. I had an order that was promised to be delivered on Sunday and didn't receive that until yesterday. So it doesn't seem like much, but when you become conditioned to receiving something in 1 or 2 days or exactly on the promise date, it's really frustrating when those third parties don't deliver. And Amazon's realizing that those broken promises from third parties are starting to affect it and its customer trust. So they're giving people a heads up in the third party space right now that that's something that's coming and will be implemented. Another thing that we wanted to provide an update on in terms of Amazon is negotiations. It's really important to understand negotiations with Amazon. It's one of the things that directly impact profit very significantly. And during this time with the pandemic, there's specific things that we can call out, which we'll do here in another couple slides. This is one, on this slide, this is one example of how Amazon is conducting some negotiations now. It's actually just sending a link. You don't need to look at everything on this slide, but what it does is it calls out the fact that Amazon is providing what it says are options, and it gives a video to explain some of those options. So it's not even a human being reaching out. Now it's a link that they'll ask you to go to in some cases. Here you can see this has a lot of text on it. It's not critical to read all of the text here. What is important is the orange boxes show options that Amazon is presenting to a vendor. And it's not as though you have multiple options to pick from. In this case, they give you one option and then they give you an accept button at the bottom of the page. It's Amazon telling you what they'd like you to accept. You have to click a box and then click accept. If you ever receive one of these and you're our client, we ask that you reach out to your account manager, and I, as well as the account manager, will engage and help you with the negotiation process. Some things that we found in negotiations so far that have been helpful is to share your current cost challenges, particularly in this COVID-19 era or period. And what I mean there is to mention your COVID-related costs. Your suppliers may have increased cost, your supply chain may have increased cost. All of those related costs I would share with Amazon. They won't necessarily give you credit for that, but it's good to give them that as background. And then also discuss additional constraints such as working conditions within your supply chain or more costly supplies, because these are things that Amazon has called out that impact its business as well. If people need to be 6 feet apart, or you have to have limited staff, you may have to have overtime or outside hours that are more expensive. These are good things to provide context to Amazon. In addition to sharing the current cost challenges, you also may see some success we've had is with delaying additional costs until next year when more certainty exists. And this is something that Amazon's been willing to do because I think next year is already so close that they understand that it's a lot of people are managing through this and expect to have better certainty in the future. As in any case, if they are increasing costs in a negotiation, we suggest asking for a cost increase because that's what Amazon is effectively doing to you. Increasingly, we are finding that Amazon is providing high pressure and requests for immediate action. It's very difficult when Amazon's putting you in that position, but that's another place where we ask just to get in touch with us if we're working with you on your business, and we can help explain some of those items. In many cases, Amazon is threatening businesses in their text, or it seems as though they're going to shut down business, but we've had that in a very limited number of cases and been able to resolve it when it happens. We'll move into operations and marketing updates with Dave.
So the very first thing here is just what's new to Vendor Central. So right now within Vendor Central, there's been a change that's been happening across accounts to the shipments portal. So if you logged in the shipments portal in the past, you would have seen multiple links to do different aspects of shipping your goods to Amazon. That has now been merged into one portal here. And that's where Amazon's basically touting the benefits here, where you've only got to log into one section. You don't have to change between those sections in order to get your goods out to Amazon. Another thing that we wanted to mention during this presentation is the Born to Run program. So it's still limited to certain vendors, but it seems to be rolling out to most categories. Most vendors now have access to it. If you're working with us and you still don't have access to it, please let your account manager know. We'll get a ticket open or talk to one of our contacts in order to get you access to Born to Run. It's a very, very good way to get inventory at an Amazon FC, especially on a new product or products with low stock. For Born to Run, there are some restrictions, which I'll go over here. Basically, if you've got Born to Run set up, you can only do 50 products per Born to Run offer. You can submit multiple offers, though, so that's not really a problem. Amazon will exclude some ASINs if you're submitting them to Born to Run. So Amazon ultimately decides if it's an unprofitable ASIN based upon the CP data that they have, they'll exclude it. That will happen on new products also. If Amazon believes those products are not profitable, if you're having that happen, please work with us, your account manager, or reach out to us for advice. And we can kind of walk you through on how to get those ASINs in the Born to Run program or other options. Suppressed ASINs will also be excluded. So if one's suppressed due to hazmat or an andon cord, they'll exclude it from Born to Run. Also, key thing to note though is that if an ASIN is in the program and it gets suppressed, it'll continue to be in the program, and then that inventory basically will just be sitting there, and you'll end up getting charged for that at the very end. So make sure that those ASINs don't get suppressed if they do get put in there. And then another thing Amazon will do is also reduce quantities too if it believes that there's too much. And that's going off of internal numbers that Amazon's got that we don't have access to. We've seen it all the way up to 2,500 units that we've submitted and Amazon accepted. And then we've also seen it before. We're submitting like 20 of a unit, and then Amazon tells us to reduce it to 5. So Amazon's determining what they can and cannot accept for the Born to Run program. For Born to Run units, everything must be sold before more can be submitted. So if you got an offer in there for Born to Run, and then you try and send Amazon additional inventory because you're expecting a demand surge soon and you see it's getting low, all the existing inventory that you've submitted for that ASIN does have to be sold through the program before you can go and submit an offer for Amazon to buy more. On the Born to Run program, you do have 10 weeks to sell the products. After those 10 weeks period, and it's actually more like 90 days because they're counting the 10 weeks is just selling through the product. They're not counting the ship window that they give you on top of that. So you've got about 90 days in total. You've got 2 options. Basically, you can either pay for the return. So Amazon will ship everything that's not been sold back to you. They'll charge you 10% in shipping handling fees, and then they'll charge you back for what the COGS of the product were as well, or the cost of the product. And then the other option is Amazon keeps the products. This is actually generally what we recommend. And then they'll only charge you 25% of the cost of the units unsold, and that'll be under the COGS as well. So it's almost like a promotion basically, where you're not paying it off ASP, you're just paying it off the COGS, and Amazon's keeping it. So it's also a good way to get rid of overstocked or unhealthy inventory that you might have. You're trying to get rid of it, and you want to get it off to Amazon. We still recommend doing dropship or direct fulfillment though as a backup still. So even the Born to Run program, it's great in order to get your inventory at the FC up and kind of fix issues. It's still not going to account for any type of demand spikes at all, and that's where dropship really can come in and kind of fill that gap still that Born to Run might not catch. The next issue that we wanted to talk about was something that we've been seeing recently across several client accounts, which has to do with rejected invoices. So basically what we're seeing here is clients are submitting invoices over time and they're not noticing that they're actually being rejected. Amazon's not sending out any emails that the rejection actually occurs. Mostly this is happening with EDI invoices where they're going out automatically from the clients that we work with. The reason that we've seen so far for invoices being rejected has to do with the line items not lining up the total in the invoice. So within the EDI itself, basically, if you added up the line items individually and then you looked at the total that was submitted, those things are not matching. So Amazon is rejecting the entire invoices versus normally what they do is they just take a shortage or pricing claim. Another thing that we're seeing too is that there's some errors in the Amazon system. So Amazon starting to, or they have been, I guess, but the list has gotten longer, sending out whenever you don't have a PO and a line item matched an invoice. So if Amazon shows that you didn't bill for something, they'll send you an email and saying to please bill for this on this PO and this ASIN. We're seeing that that is not lining up a lot with the data that we've got from Vendor Central. So when you look at the Vendor Central PO data, the two don't line up. In order to get those fixed, you would need to file a ticket, and then, or if you're working with us, the account manager will file a ticket and try and get those invoices corrected and pushed through. So that way you can either get paid on the items that are outstanding or get it corrected so Amazon doesn't keep emailing everybody and everyone starts asking about it. The best way to look at this, so there's two ways here really. So Amazon does provide you some data with the financial scorecard. This is a newer feature that we talked about in a previous presentation, but they do have this option now where they'll tell you how many invoices are missing, and they'll also go over your shortage claims as well. You can take a look at that and see if anything is outstanding that you haven't billed for yet. Use this as a guide though, because it doesn't go back before 2020 currently. So anything older than that is not going to show up. The best way really to see if you're missing something on an invoice side of things is you can check your remittances. Your remittances are going to show everything that's paid for, so you can line that up with your POs, and you can basically see what the differences are between the two. And then from there, you can basically try and get that corrected. If you're working with us, we can work on doing that for you in an audit. Another requirement that Amazon is now coming out with is a pesticide requirement. So if you've seen this already, you probably either saw the news that's within the Vendor Central account when you first log in, or you receive something like an email that's on the right here. Next slide is going to go over in the details, but this right here is some of the information you might have seen already if you've received an email from Amazon or an update. Okay, so what this basically is Amazon is now requiring everybody that sells on the platform to provide an EPA registration number, an EPA establishment number, or an exemption for products. From what I have seen so far, and by the way, the box at the very bottom is what this will look like within your Vendor Central catalog. Every product is having this pop up. Now, some product categories, it's optional, and some it's not. But I have been seeing products start to get flagged, even like in food, where Amazon is asking to fill this out. If you get flagged like this when trying to submit an ESIN or update something in Vendor Central, you just have to put that it's not a pesticide and it doesn't fall within these guidelines. The reason why the flagging is happening is they're doing it based upon either keywords that are within your marketing content and your categories as well. Now, keywords that they're calling out is things like disinfect, repel insects, remove allergens, prevent bacteria, antiviral, antifungal, etc. Key thing there is that even if you went and removed this from your pages so you don't get called out on these, keep in mind that 3P might be submitting something like this as well. And if 3P is submitting that, that's also going to be affecting it, and it's going to be sidelined basically until you either provide an exemption or one of those EPA numbers like we talked about before. If you provided one of these EPA numbers in the past, by the way, you still need to submit the numbers to the new updated section within the catalog. In the past, you would have went and sent it into RBS via Vendor Central. You need to actually add it in though now too, in order for it not to be flagged. If you're in categories such as clothing, home goods, air and water filters, lawn and garden, you're going to start to see changes within your NIST where this is now a requirement where you go and provide this information, and all your products are going to start getting flagged too, more than likely. The timeline for this to end up happening is it started on September 10th for any new products. This is where it's starting to become mandatory in some of the new item setup forms or the NISTs. And then for everybody, it's going to roll out on January 11th, 2021. If the attribute is required for your ASIN and you don't have it filled in, then Amazon will start suppressing the products until you go and complete that. In order to update this, you can either do a mass catalog update where you download the entire catalog and you fill it in for every single one, or what you can do is you can do it one by one under Vendor Central. It's going to be under items, edit products, safety and compliance, and then pesticide marketing. And then again, you would put what it falls under here. So it was one of those three. You have both. You can actually select both. You'll put in the number for it, and then you'll go and you'll have approval for it, and then Amazon will take it, and you don't have to worry about suppression. If you're working with us, then we should have reached out to you already on what we need, unless we think it doesn't apply for your category. And then again, we'll just go and fill it for any products that get suppressed, so you don't have to worry about that. Another reminder too is just on chargebacks. This we went over during the last presentation, but keep in mind the SIOC dimensions are going to change. This happens January 1st, 2021, and they are going to change to basically a smaller packaging size. Previously it was 9 by 6 by 0.375. It is now going to get updated to 6 by 4 by 0.375 for any products that are in a non-sort FC. They're now going to be eligible for SIOC. That's chargeback is $1.99. So try and get that certified. If you're working with us, then please let us know. If you're concerned about this, we'll go and do a deep dive and make sure that none of the products are affected. And if you're already working on getting products certified, keep a record of everything, especially if there's a backlog, because we can start filing cases in order to make sure you're not going to get that $1.99 charge back. If you don't want to worry about that, we could try and do a cost increase for you as well, or you could always just shipping is not eligible for any chargebacks here for SIOC. Amazon's not going to give you a charge for that. The next thing that we have here is marketing. So Prime Day is good to go as far as we know. right now. So we were hearing rumors previously that it might end up getting canceled, just the way things are going. But as of right now, we're seeing everything that it's going to happen. October 13th and 14th are supposed to be the days, and Amazon is already starting to send out marketing material about Prime Day occurring. The main thing they're sending out right now is basically telling everybody to get your advertising ready. So make sure that you're doing that, because ads do normally take about 2 weeks in order to optimize. Again, if you're working with us, we should already be doing that for you, but just make sure that that's happening on your end if you're not. The next thing that Amazon is starting to email about now is Q4 readiness. So it's upon us, the holiday season. It's already starting. So Black Friday and Cyber Monday deals are actually due to Amazon this week. So 9/18 is when the submission deadline is for those. This year it's actually going to be fairly short. It's going to be similar, I believe, to last year, where Black Friday is actually the last Friday in the month of November. So 11/27, and then Cyber Monday happens at 11/30. So what we saw last year anyway, it was a shorter buying season. So the holiday deal periods for Amazon, Amazon considers 10/15 to 11/30 the start of holiday deals. And then Turkey 5 is going from 11/26 to 11/30. And then Amazon says that their most highly trafficked period is from 11/23 to 12/6. So that's when all the traffic is going to be. So make sure you're keeping that in mind for anything that you're running and for any ads that you're running during that time period as well. Coupons were promoted last year in categories. So in 2019, Amazon did go and put those in front of customers. But some categories this year, we've already seen emails where they said that coupons will not be getting advertised like they did last year. For some categories, they said that they will not appear on the holiday deals page, those coupons. So just keep that in mind when you're trying to schedule things, if you want to do a coupon or if you want to do a best deal. They are a little bit different. We normally see very good success with coupons, but if your category is not willing to promote those on the deals page, you may want to switch over to best deals. The two types of deals that Amazon is basically putting out there, besides the main deals, the deal of the days, they're also doing lightning deals. There is a Q fee, or a Q4 holiday deal fee of $500 if you're doing a lightning deal, and it's a 20% off minimum. Keep in mind, some categories Amazon will keep the inventory and they'll still bill you for the amount of the discount, so they're basically getting that at a cheaper amount than normal. Other categories, they don't do that, so just take a look at that if you decide to do a lightning deal on products. And then for best deals, they got to run, or they can run at a maximum of 2 weeks at a time. If you're doing a best deal for the holiday period, and because it's going longer, so like say for example you're doing it at the end of November, and then you're also going to do it in December as well, and it will be longer than 2 weeks, you must have at least 1 day between the two best deals in order to avoid deal suppressions. So if you have them back to back, Amazon has in their system at least to go and suppress the deal so that doesn't happen. And your best deals must be a minimum of 15% off the ASP. Another thing too that I wanted to mention, which is starting to come up in a lot of talks, is tacos. So tacos, we're not talking about the Mexican taco though, although I do got a nice picture that makes me pretty hungry in the next slide you'll see. But within tacos here, basically, it's a little bit different of looking at your spending compared to ACOGs or ROI. So tacos is your ad spend divided by your ad revenue plus organic revenue, where ACOGs is normally just your ad spend divided by your ad revenue. Okay, so what that's doing essentially is it's measuring advertising spend relative to total revenue generated. So it shows essentially like how your ads are impacting your entire business, instead of like ACOGs or ROI, which is just looking specifically at the performance of the ads itself. When you're looking at tacos, the lower the number it is better, so it's very similar to ACOGs in that sense, but it does indicate different measures here, which we kind of break down in the next section. So tacos, if it's flat or falling, that actually means organic sales are increasing. So similar to ACOGs, that means things are going really well. If tacos are rising, what it means is organic sales are decreasing, and then ad or ad costs are increasing when that's actually happening. And then if ACOGs is falling and tacos is rising, it means organic sales are decreasing. And then if ACOGs and tacos are both rising, well, that's really bad. And what that means is that we need to redo your campaigns, or you need to go and re-optimize your campaigns because they're not working out. Exception to that, though, is if it's on new products. So if it's a newly launched product, that might be okay because you're trying to get out there to consumers.
Nice. Another update that we have for marketing is there's a beta for sponsored display. And if you're not familiar, what sponsored display ads are, is they are advertisements that target specific products or interests on Amazon. So the screenshot on this slide, you can see outlined in blue in the bottom of this image are 2 sponsored display ads. So those products are targeting this specific product, which right now is on the deals page. And so they are targeting this specific ASIN, and they are paying to get their product advertisement shown there. A couple ways that you can use this are to target high traffic or competitor products. And then you can also target relevant interests. So Amazon has opened up the targeting capabilities to allow you to go after, instead of just going after specific products or ASINs, you can go after product categories or interests. And then another way you can use this advertisement is to protect from competitors. So if you notice in this screenshot, the first image where it says save 5%, that is a competitor that is advertising on this detail page. If you look at the other advertisement, it's actually the same brand advertising on their own page to try to protect from competitors. Another thing you'll notice on there is that sponsored display ads now show, if you are running a deal or if you're running a promotion, they will show that it is either, like you can see on these two, one of them is saving 5%. So there's a 5% subscribe and save discount on that product. And then the other one is a deal of the day. So that's shown in sponsored display advertisements. A couple of updates to the sponsored display ad that they have are you're now able to advertise multiple products within a single campaign. It used to be that you could only create a single product in a single campaign. Now they've opened it up to multiple. And you can leverage more flexible bidding on each targeted product or category. So before you had to set a blanket bid across all your categories, now you can go in to each category and set specific cost per clicks that you want to do for those products or for those categories. You're also able to filter. So you can refine the category based on price, brand, star rating, prime status, and other filters. So if you wanted to run a sponsored display ad, you could run it on just swimming equipment for products that are in the Speedo category with a 5-star rating and prime status, things like that. And then they have also started to include detailed reporting. So in the past, there was just the sponsored product reports and then the sponsored brand reports. We now have access to a sponsored display advertising report. So moving on to the Amazon frontier, a couple things that we've seen in these past couple weeks are spikes, large spikes in detail page suppressions. So we have a process for catching and fixing detail page suppressions, but you can see in these past, once COVID started down in week 11, if you can see on this graph, the y-axis is number of detail page suppressions, and then the x-axis is the week number. You can see that starting in week 11, when COVID started to hit, the suppressions went up quite a bit. We've been managing that, but again, this past month in August, the detail page suppressions increased again. And a couple of things that we've seen are an increase in hazmat suppressions and on chords, profitability, and restricted categories. So this is something that we are monitoring on a weekly basis. And anytime we find a suppression, the account managers work with the vendor in order to get these suppressions fixed so that they don't cause an adverse effect on your sales. Another program that is on the Amazon frontier is something called editorial recommendations, or the on-site associates program. So some of you may have seen this in search results. The screenshot on the right shows the search results for the search term swim snorkel. And what this has is a product-related article that was posted by Barbend, where they are calling out the top 3 snorkels of these different categories. And so what this is it's an extension of Amazon's associates program or their affiliate program. So content creators are paid a commission for sales that occur after clicking through the articles. So it's just another way for Amazon to get more detailed content into their website. So now we can open it up to questions and answers. All right. Well, if no one has any questions, we can move back to Alan and go to the key takeaways and finish it up.
Sounds good. In the final minute, if anybody has anything that they would like to ask, go ahead and enter it in the chat box there. It looks like we do have one question that came across. What's the best way to be included in the editorial recommendations? The excellent question. Those editorial recommendations are sourced by Amazon, but not controlled by Amazon, so that they reach out to the individual content providers. We'd have to figure out how to reach those content providers in particular and get them to reference the specific product. It's also category specific, so in some cases, Amazon categories have not adopted that on-site associates program yet. In some cases, they don't have content providers that they're reaching out to, and we have not found a place that they make those publicly available. We need to reach out to the third-party providers of that content to get them to include or consider the products. And we can see from typically there's 3 areas that they call out. It seems like it's, instead of a good, better, best, in some cases, it's different features that are highlighted. So we'd want to reach out to them with something that we thought was the most effective or most efficient or otherwise addressed a specific customer feature that they needed. We'll keep an eye on specifically in your category, Blair, for those areas to see if that program pops up, and in that case, we'll try to research for those third parties. Now, also an idea there is that we could bring it up to the account manager at Amazon or the Amazon buyer, and we can ask if the on-site associates program is there. That might be a way that we could get ahead of it, is to ask all Amazon buyers if the on-site associates program will be launched within that category, and potentially then we could have a heads up and possibly reach out to those organizations in advance. Great question. In terms of key takeaways for this month, we're always looking to optimize for our clients the things on the right in the picture: sales growth, profit, and brand excellence. It's very, very easy to sell on Amazon. You can list a product in 5 minutes and potentially get an order or order it yourself. It takes a coordinated team, though, to adapt and excel with Amazon because there's so many moving parts. Just this month, in terms of sales growth, we wanted to share the new pesticide requirements and product suppression spikes. Those are things that directly impact sales. And if you see items, please highlight them to us. We'll continue to make these type of updates and adjust and create tools to make sure that we can highlight them even faster and react and fix them. Tacos and ACost is something that is helping. We've had clients that call out to us that understanding the total advertising cost of sales versus just ACost has helped them compare across different channels. And then internally, they can compare if, in many cases, Amazon's a very effective or more effective way to sell, and it provides a metric then to compare with internal teams across channels. In terms of profit, it's great that this month we highlighted the Amazon payments and invoices. These are details that we want to get into because driving profit for you means getting into the details. And we wanted to provide those details to give a heads up, not only on the EDI portion, but ways to check. And we're backing up our clients on those items and then pursuing them to fix issues that we find as well. Negotiations and contracts are another space that Amazon is constantly changing. We wanted to share with you the new negotiation approach that we saw, and we see continued changes in terms that they're pursuing. So we'll bring those to you as we see them. And finally, in terms of brand excellence, things that are constantly changing on Amazon and new updates, such as the on-site associates program, we want to be there so that we can ask the Amazon buyer the questions about that. And Navazon is an Amazon advertising strategic partner, so we are given information ahead of time in many cases. And as one example of that, we have been, the Amazon advertising team is reaching out to us to talk about Amazon store optimizations. So you may have been contacted already or maybe in the future. And this is an area that Amazon is expanding pretty aggressively in terms of hiring people in their advertising department to build out these new features and functions. And as we hear more from Amazon in terms of the store optimization and what it really entails, we expect to bring you the updates on that next month. We appreciate you attending today. If there's any final questions or other topics, we're happy to cover them now.